Okay, the linear regression tests are probably the easiest ones of all because all the work generally has been done except for interpretation. So it really is just a matter of looking at all your pieces and finding the right numbers to interpret the result. So in this case, a college admission counselor is interested in finding out how well high school GPAs predict first-year college GPAs. And a random sample of data from first-year students was reviewed to obtain high school and first-year college GPAs, and the data are shown below. Do not get a wild hair and start typing those ordered pairs, X's and Y's, into your calculator. You do not need to do that. You don't have time to do that. The graphs are all over here at the side. All right, we have all this output. They tell us the dependent variable, which is our predictor variable, is the freshman year GPA. So we'll see that that's on the vertical axis over here. And we're going to predict that from the high school GPA. We had an R-squared value of 75.4%, which is pretty strong. 16 pairs of data minus 2 gives us 14 degrees of freedom. And then down at the very, very, very bottom, we have variables. Constant is your y-intercept, so this is our y-intercept. And then under the variable high school GPA, which is our x variable over here, the coefficient is 1.30, so that's our slope. Typically the slope is on the very bottom line, and then we have by that the standard error of the slope. Under that we have the t-value of the slope, the t-score, and then we have the probability of slope, which is a p-value. And those are all the pieces that I'm going to need to run a hypothesis test, which is what I'm going to go for here. We're asked if there's evidence of an association, always the key words for a linear regression test, between the two GPAs, and we want to test an appropriate hypothesis. I suggest you write it in words. It's about an association between variables. So the null hypothesis would be there is no association between high school GPA and college, or let's do freshman year college GPA. And the alternative, just to save time this morning, guys, is that, but there is an association. No for the null, and there is one for the alternative. There is an association between ... Now you don't do that on the AP test. You write it out fully in words and context. But for this morning, just for practice, just for time management, we're just going to pretend that we did. All right, so conditions, nowhere in there did it say the conditions had already been checked. So we should check conditions. And the conditions really are about looking at each of the graphs that are given over here and telling what we see. So the first thing we see is GPA versus GPA. That's a scatter plot. It looks reasonably linear. So we're going to say that the scatter plot is reasonably linear. Check. Second graph is the graph of the residuals. Residuals has random scatter and no fan shape. Those are the two things we look at. So residual plot has random scatter and consistent spread. Technically that checks two of the conditions, which is great. And then last but not least, we look at this histogram. It's definitely unimodal. It's reasonably symmetric. It doesn't have any outliers, it doesn't look like, and there's a little gap there, but other than that, there's not anything terribly unusual about it. It's not badly skewed. So the histogram of, and this is a histogram of residuals, is unimodal and reasonably symmetric. Check, check, check. So we're going to use a linear regression, don't need a regression t-test. There are virtually no mechanics. We don't do any computations. They've already been done for us. So we're just going to use the t-score for the slope and the probability for the slope, because the test is about the slope. If the slope is 0, then we don't have a pattern. If the slope is anything other than 0, there's a pattern. We just want to know if it's a clear enough pattern to be significant. So we're going to report a t with 14 degrees of freedom as being up here 6.55. So really it's just about picking out the right number. And a p-value of less than or equal to 0.0001. 0.0001, which is very small. That's going to be rejection. So with a p-value of less than 0.0001, less than or equal to, no more than 0.0001, I will reject the null hypothesis at alpha equals anything would work here. 0.05 is typical. There is strong evidence. There is strong evidence of an association between high school GPA and college freshman GPA. All right. One of the shortest tests we have, and it is not unusual for one of these to be on the test, and we can get a 4 on this just by, if we can find the stuff about slope here and talk about the pictures, we can nail this one every time. Okay, I'm going to get this done in less than 10 minutes. The last little piece here is to create and interpret a 95% confidence interval for the slope. Okay, that's a reminder there that it is all about the slope. We already have check conditions, so we don't have to redo that. So I just have to go up here and find my slope itself, which is 1.3052. 1.3052, that is my statistic, okay? Plus or minus a t-star with 14 degrees of freedom. And if I do inverse t on the calculator with an area of 0.975 and degrees of freedom of 14, I'm going to find that t-score is 2.145. So we're going to stick in a 2.145, and then we need to multiply that by the standard error, which is given up here. It's 0.1993. That's all I need for the confidence interval setup. And then, unfortunately, our calculator will not actually run a confidence interval for a t, linear regression t, unless you have the data in. We don't have time for that. So you're just going to pick up your calculator and you're going to do this computation with addition, do this computation with subtraction to get your upper and lower bounds. When we do that, we get something in the neighborhood of 0.88, comma 1.73, so between 0.88 and 1.73. And we're going to conclude that we are 95% confident that the first year college GPA, that's my Y value, so change in Y, increases an average of between 0.88 and 1.73 points for each additional high school GPA point. Okay, I actually finished in 10 minutes. So that just needing to work through one of those each again, I think to see them. I don't have an actual assignment for you writing these out. I figure if we just write it out together one time, things will come back and we'll be good. On your Schoology, I have posted the remainder of multiple choice items from a practice released AP exam, a secure exam. If you will finish those up tonight, then we will be able to actually get a score, a multiple choice score, if you combine what you did on that first 17 questions last week and the remaining 18 through 40 we have this week. Then we'll be able to see how many we actually got out of 40 real multiple choice questions that came from an old exam. And then tomorrow when I am back, we will look at the Z-tests we've not seen for a very long time. And guys, make sure your calculators are charged before Thursday. And other than that, it's just, kind of, we're getting ready to go, almost there, and hang with me just a couple more days.